Guys, Gray Buck. Today we're going to talk about day 3 of the St. Lawrence River. So day 1, it was a tough, kind of a tough go. I had a big largemouth that saved my day. I had 15.5, I believe, if I remember correctly, and I was sitting in 70th place. Day 2, went out there and caught a big bag. We had a jacked up wind. It was blowing out of the northeast, kind of stopped the current, hurt the weights a lot for the guys that were catching those smallies out deep. And I was able to put together a shallow smallmouth pattern and then catch another big largemouth. I go over all that in days, I guess day 1 and day 2 of the previous videos. They're kind of highlights of it. So day 3, I kind of had nothing to lose. I was sitting in 23rd place. I knew at this point I needed a top 3-ish. I really thought I'd had the win to have any chance of making the title championship. Coming into the event, I was in 80th place, and I needed to get into the top 50. So I had nothing to do but just kind of swing for it. I figured out a little bit of what was going on. I had a terrible practice if you go back and check, but I go over what happened. And day 3, I knew I couldn't go down, or I could go down, but I wasn't going to lose any points. I was really just hoping I could go and make that, I could push to make the top 10 and then go from there. So I made the real long run again. I'm running down the Clayton area and I stopped, I guess, first on one dock that I caught some big largemouth off of earlier in the week. And then I caught one there. It was a little guy. It was a keeper, but got one in the box. Then I went to this flat that I was catching them off of on day 2. I caught a 5-pounder there. I located 3 other big smallmouth there, and they were just kind of sitting on some sand, some grass, some little bit of isolated rock. And I went there and I was throwing this Z-Man trick shot. This is a Goby Bryant, and I knew there was this dark patch. I'm not even sure if it was a rock or if it was grass. It was hard to tell, being the water had a nice little ripple to it. But when I went there, I kind of eased up to it real slow. I was pitching with that drop shot real far ahead of the boat, and I could see it. And this dark one was doing circles, and it kept getting mad at my bait, and it wasn't eating it right away, and it was just kind of all fired up. So what I did eventually was I cast it out there, and I just held it there, and I watched this fish swim around it for probably a minute, maybe 2. It was a long time. And all of a sudden, my line just starts swimming away. And I use that Seaguar. It's flash green, it's high vis. Really lets you detect those bites. But when I saw my line to start swimming, that's when I knew I reeled down, set the hook on my favorite rod, and I caught the first fish of the day. So this was kind of it wasn't professional. I had my net set up on the side of the boat, ready to net them. I bumped it with my foot, watched it sink to the bottom in 8-10 foot of water there. And this point, I got a giant smallie on my rod. It was well over 5. I don't know if he wasn't 6, but he was probably 5.5. And I get him next to the boat, and I eventually belly scooped him and threw him into the boat. It was kind of ugly, but that point I had fish number 2, and it was a good one. And it's early. It was 8:30 maybe after making that long run. So I only been fishing for probably 20 minutes at this point, maybe a half hour. Then I kept working my way along. I found that second big one, and it was 10 feet from it, maybe 20 feet. It wasn't far, and started working that one, and that one ate right away. I pitched over that drop shot, that Z-Man, the trick shot, and same thing, started swimming off, set the hook, got him. So at this point, I got 2 for probably about, I thought 9, maybe a hair more, 9.5 pounds, and I was feeling good. I was throwing my jerkbait around. I caught a short one, a couple short ones, kept working the area, landed another keeper, so it gave me 4 keepers. I went to this other spot, whatever, probably a half mile away, ran up there, was looking at it. I had it was the big one I was telling you about from day 2 that I ended up catching this light colored one that I didn't see when he was chasing my bait. And I found him again. And this fish, it was bigger than that 5.5 that I caught today, or on day 3. And I went back there, and I'm working it, and it's fired up. It's chasing my drop shot. It wouldn't eat it. I threw a couple other things, a hair jig, jerk bait by it. And all of a sudden, it just decided it was done, and it left. And I was never able to relocate that fish that day. I only had, because I had an 8.5 hour day, but I was running an hour and 35 minutes one way, and an hour and 35 back the other way. So I was using a lot of my fishing day. I only had 4 to 5 hours of fishing. So after that, I decided to kind of keep working through there. I went back through that first area I caught him, and I lost like a 3-pounder. He chased my jerkbait up, and I pitched a drop shot at it, and he ate it, and it just came off. Kind of is what it is. But I was running out of time. I went and got gas, and then I decided I was going to make that long run back, and it was going to give me about 30 minutes to fish one area that on day 2 I had caught a 4-pounder at the end of the day on a jerkbait. So I ran all the way back there, start working that edge, and pretty quickly I caught a 3-pounder. It was a good solid fish. I kept working the area, and I went down a little bit from there, throwing that jerkbait. I didn't catch any more, but I had 5 at this point, including that little largemouth. So then I knew I had like 3 minutes to fish. It was about 30 minutes from there, maybe 25, 30 minutes. I was giving myself 30, and I ended up fishing a little bit too long. Or not too long, but a little longer than I anticipated. So I had got back up to that stretch where I caught that one, caught another one, culled out this like little, probably 2 1/4 pound largemouth. And it wasn't a huge upgrade, but maybe another 1/2 pound. At this point, I had to book it. I put my basket into high gear. I'm running. I hit 77.5 miles an hour, like just flying. And I made it back with like 2 minutes to spare before I had to check in. So it ended up working out pretty well. I weighed in, I had 18.3, I believe. It was 18 pounds something. And I jumped from, I think I was in 23rd to 19th is what I ended up in for the tournament. So after the practice I had where I had caught 2 fish over 3 pounds, I was pumped for how this derby ended up going. It was a lot of just junk fishing, winging it. I was using that Z-Man Zinker Z, the palmetto bug for those largemouth, the trick shot. We're using a Hayabusa weight when we were flipping and using it on my drop shot. Angler tungsten weight and for the drop shot and flipping. Hayabusa, we're using a straight shank hook for flipping and a drop shot hook they have, size 2. All my favorite rods, Seaguar line, all this stuff will be in the description below so you can check it all out. If you have any questions about it, let me know. Ultimately, I did end up missing the FLW or MLF title championship on lacrosse in 2 weeks, which hurts me. But overall, it was a pretty solid season. I had cashed 4 checks. I made 3 cuts out of the 6 tournaments. The other one, I missed it by a little bit. I had 2 bombs. Lake Eufaula and Okeechobee, they killed me. So it is what it is. I ended up at 58th place for the season. They took 50 to the championship. I was 16 places or 16 points, I guess, out of making the championship, which is 16 places. So, for example, Lake Eufaula, when I came in 147th, if I would have came in 130th, I make the championship, which is essentially 1 fish. It's amazing how tight all of it is, but that's a story for another time. I appreciate you guys watching, following along with all my Major League Fishing Pro Circuit events this year. Like I said, if you got questions about rods, reels, gear, any of that stuff, if you want discounts on any of it, I have a lot of that information in the description below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Check that one out, boys and girls.